Hello there. Today I'm taking a taste of what I think is the archetypal dry sherry. So this is Gonzalez Byass Tio Pepe. It's a widely available wine, and one that's been produced actually since 1835, I understand, when Manuel, María, Gonzales, Angel and John Blake Gonzales started Gonzales Byass, the sherry house. This was one of their first products. It's named after Uncle Joe, Tio Pepe. Evidently Joe Angel was Manuel's uncle, and it's a quality. It's a wine whose quality has enabled it to sort of find a niche as a sort of a really high quality Fino sherry. So what's creating that quality? I mean, the fact that it comes from 100% Jerez Superior vineyards on the sort of beautiful chalky Albaritza soils is a start. I mean, evidently the Consejo says that these wines have to be at least 60% from Jerez Superior, whereas, as I say, this is 100%. It comes and has come consistently from two vineyards, and I'm going to say these wrong probably, the Macunado vineyard and the Carcasal vineyard, and what happens is that the chalk soils, because they are able to absorb the winter rainfall, enable the plant to grow successfully during the summer when it's absolutely baking hot and completely dry. The grapes are hand-picked. They're very, very gently pressed with a pneumatic press, a Wilms press. The juice used for this is just the free run, the first pressings, so that's clean juice with the best acidity, the best sugar in, so only the best juice going into this particular wine. It's fermented up to 11-12% alcohol. It's then fortified up to 15.5%, and that's when it goes into the solera system, which is why it's important to only fortify to 15.5%, because if you fortify any higher than that, the floor yeast, which has come from the fermentation yeasts, is unable to start growing on the surface of the barrel. So they leave about 100 litres of space in the top of a barrel. This is an American oak barrel, but an old American oak, so there's no oak flavour influence there. And this floor grows on the top of the wine, and it consumes the alcohols, not only ethanol but also sort of glycerols and that sort of thing, and also any sugars remaining, and it produces aldehydes, giving the wines their sort of distinctive salty tang that Fino has, and I mean that's quite important, because Palomino is not a particularly aromatic variety, and so this is what provides the character of Fino Sherry. And there's quite a difficult process to continue ensuring that floor grows, because this is in the solera for 4 to 5 years. So during that period you need continual floor growth to protect it from oxidation. So you're continually having to move older wines out of the of each barrel and move it up the solera into another barrel, so that you're bringing newer wines in that have these characteristics that will feed the yeast and enable it to continue growing. So this continual movement of wine between the barrels is important to keep the floor character being produced. So the very pungent flavours. Let's have a look first, shall we? First thing to say is you've got a very pale yellow. It has a lovely brightness there to it. As I swirl, unsurprisingly, there are fairly heavy tears forming. Although it's only actually the alcohol content that's doing that. Because there are no sort of glycerols, no sugars. There's almost no sugar left in this. So and in fact, I said that this was fortified up to 15.5%, which I believe is correct. And yet the bottle is only labelled as 15%. So during the process of aging in the solera, at least 0.5% of alcohol has been consumed. It's possible more, and it might have been fortified again subsequent to sale, but at least 0.5% is consumed by the yeast during that period. So the nose, you've got a wonderful pungency on that. how is it pungent? It's a combination of two elements, I think. You've got an almost a sort of a, I mean, the saline note is very obvious, but it's not as obvious as you'd get with something like a Manzanilla from San Lucar, where the floor grows thicker and you've got a more salty character. This has almost sort of an almond pasty note, and there's a sort of a real richness, a slight sort of, almost sort of doughy, bready note. It's almost like a sort of the nose on a young champagne. In terms of its complexity there, and there are high notes that are a little like sort of candied peel coming out of it there as well. So plenty going on in there and very pungent. So let's have a taste. That is absolutely bone dry. Not a speck of sugar in there at all, and that leaves the pungency of the salty notes of the aldehydes, and there's a sort of an almost creamy texture to that almondy note that's making up the most of the body of the wine there. The alcohol at 15% doesn't come across as being particularly hot or burning. In fact, it's allowing the wine to have to develop on the finish with a lovely fresh lemoniness that's coming in, cutting through. I mean, there's a lovely freshness to this. Looking at it, the stats say that it's got a pH of 3, which is an incredibly low pH for a white wine, and yet actually the total acidity is only 4 grams, which is not particularly high. So it's got that pH there that's keeping it fresh, keeping it pungent. The texture, that sort of almond paste note, there's a sort of almond pasty creaminess that's giving a little bit of weight to the wine. Its pungency, its weight, its freshness, all things that will make it an absolutely gorgeous partner for a whole range of foods. I mean, oily fish, for instance, fantastic. Shellfish, I think this would be great with various cheeses that might have, harder cheeses with saline characters, or some of the softer cheeses. This would be absolutely gorgeous with. Olives is another classic pairing, of course. So yes, Tio Pepe Fino Sherry. I think a wine that really defines its category simply because its quality is so obvious in the glass in terms of its pungency, its persistence, its richness. Yeah, I've really enjoyed trying this. So thank you for joining us. If you've enjoyed the video, do please feel free to subscribe, to like, to share the video, and hopefully you'll join us again. Bye now.